Hi guys, gals. This video here is about preparing for your training sessions. You know, part 3 training, it's not cheap, is it? I know I don't come cheap, and I know that any trainer worth his salt isn't going to come cheap either. And I know that in this, the current economic climate, money's not easy to come by. So the point I'm going to make here is that don't waste your training sessions, don't waste your money. Make sure that A, you're getting value for your money, and B, that you're making the best possible use of that money. So when you book a training session with your trainer and you're going to have 2 hours, make sure you're well prepared for that session. You can't expect the trainer to do everything for you, and in fact, if you get into my car and you expect me to do it all for you, then I'm sorry, you're going to have a major shock. You really are. How do you get yourself prepared? How do you make sure that you're ready for your training session? Well, it's quite simple. There are various things that you should have been made aware of, and if you watched other videos, you would have seen me and Helen talk about them before. This book here, the Essential Skills, this one looks quite tiny because it's fairly new. But if you look at, I haven't got the old one in the car, but if you look at the one that this has replaced, it was practically falling apart at the seams. And that's because even though I'm fairly well qualified as a driving instructor, I still keep myself up to date, and I use it in the car a lot of my PDIs, so it does get used an awful lot. You guys should know this book inside out. You would have used it hopefully for your part 1, carried on with your part 2, and then with your part 3, everything that's in there is going to be dealt with on part 3. Alright, at some stage. There are bits in there that you wouldn't use, like the first aid stuff, and that's not really going to come into it. But the point I'm making, if you're going to teach somebody a subject on phase 1, you should be teaching them to drive as it says in there. So if you do moving off and stopping, look up moving off and stopping in there and teach it like that book says. Okay, that's very, very important. If you do moving off and stopping, you should also find out if there are any rules relating in the highway code to that subject, so that you can explain that to your learner, and if it comes up in your training session or if it comes up in your part 3, you've got the knowledge to be able to deal with it. The other one is to know your traffic signs. You should know what road markings mean. If you get a pupil that asks you what does that solid white line mean, you should know the answer. You shouldn't be left there floundering and being caught out. All too often I will turn around while I'm pretending to be a pupil and just say quite an easy question really, and it totally throws the guy sat next to me, the PDI sat next to me, because they just don't know it, and that throws them off their stride. So the point I'm making there, gain the knowledge. I know an awful lot of people, once they pass their theory, these books go on the shelf, they stay there and they don't pick them up again, and that's so sad, because you've got a dream to become a driving instructor. Make it easy, and trust me, if you put the legwork in, it is fairly easy to qualify. Alright, so knowing those books is very, very important. Another document, you can Google this, it's the ADI one. If you've been training with myself or Helen all the way through your part 1 and part 2, we would have referred to it several times. You'll also find a link to it on our site, and you can Google it, just look up for the ADI one. It's the guidance notes for examiners and all the different ADI tests that may be carried out. Chapter 3 is the one that relates particularly to the part 3 training, and it's the guidance note, so it explains the part 3 test to the examiner and to you, so you can have a read of that. Now I mentioned moving off and stopping, so each of the different PSTs will have a little section on this document, and you'll find it. I'll just tell you now, it's not actually listed in PST orders, you need to find it. For instance, moving off and stopping is PST2. On this document, it's paragraph 3.21. It's exercise 2B. So it's called something slightly different. But it is moving off, making normal stops, and use of mirrors. So if you know you're going to be doing with that with your trainer, and if you want to make sure you fully understand it, then just a week or so before your training session, have a read. Make sure you fully understand it. So just as an example here, exercise 2B, moving off, making normal stops and use of mirrors. Examiners need to select a road suitable for moving off and stopping. Ideally, a quiet, clear stretch of road, left and right turns should be avoided. So what's that saying? That's letting the examiner know that The route he selects to do this, and bear in mind that he selects the route and he will feed that to you on your part 3. He needs to make sure that where he takes you to carry out this, it needs to be what it says, an ideally quiet stretch of road. Left and right turns should be avoided, so he should be looking for somewhere that's fairly long. Now, as a general rule, that's what he's looking for. There may be, because of the locations of some test centres, that may not always be possible, but you know, I'm sure you'll manage. And it needs to be somewhere where you can get several attempts to move off and stop. So when you're doing this exercise, don't get the guy to move off and drive half a mile before you put up again, because you're going to run out, and you're not doing him any favours either. You know, he's picked this route. It's your fault if he's given you a stretch of road where you could do it 2 or 3 times and you only manage once because you've driven for half a mile in first gear. So bear that in mind. Goes on to explain moving off. The PDI, that's you, should deal with the preparation, observation and manoeuvre routine, POM. All right, so that's what they're looking for. Now, I've seen some people get in my car with lesson planners that don't mention POM. Well, the examiner's looking for POM. He's looking for preparation, observation and, you know, manoeuvre. So make sure you use that routine, you know. So read up about it. Examiners should test the PDI's ability to identify whether the correct move-off procedure, POM, has been executed from both the control, that's the pedals, the steering, the gear selection, etc., and the observation, so that's the mirrors and the right blind spot. Now, again, I've mentioned this book here, The Essential Skills. Guys, if you look up moving off and stopping in there, it does not tell you to check your left blind spot, your left door mirror, centre mirror, road ahead, right mirror, right blind spot. It doesn't tell you to do that, so why teach it? It wants the mirrors and the right blind spot, not the left blind spot. There are times when you use a left blind spot. Mention it when it's applicable. If it's not applicable, don't teach it. Okay, I know myself that examiners get a little bit fed up of that one, so just bear that in mind. And the all-important timing of the blind spot check. Now, what that's saying is that the examiner should make sure that they are taught that as they check their blind spot, as their eyes come back, that car should move. If it doesn't move because they're not prepared properly or whatever, then the mirrors need to be checked again after whatever the reason was has been corrected. It may be that you look and as you go to look back, you notice a car suddenly turned in the road behind, so you can't move. So you need to go through those mirrors again in a blind spot. All right. Now, this isn't a video about moving off and stopping. You'll find various videos on the different subjects on the site, so you can go forward and look at that. But the point I'm making here is that by using this document, finding out what you should be doing for the PST you're going to be doing in car with your trainer, you won't get it wrong. You're not wasting valuable time. When you read this document, there are some stuff written in there that you may not understand. Qualified ADIs sometimes don't understand it. Trainers should. If you don't understand anything and you're training with me ahead, and pick up the phone. Even if you're not training with us, by all means give us a ring, or you can email us, send us a text message. The point I'm making is find out about it before you get in car. Don't get in the car blind to it all. Understand what you're going to be expected to do, because if you understand what your trainer is going to be expecting and going to be covering, that session is going to be used to good value, and it's not going to be wasted time in car. All right. If your trainer can't explain it to you because he doesn't know it, what you doing training with them, with all due respect, because they're supposed to be developing you as an ADI. So make sure you read that before your training session. Make sure you understand it, and make sure you carry out the session or carry out the PST, the preset test, to how it says in here, because that's how you're going to be marked. That's what the examiner is going to expect on the day. So ADI 1, Chapter 3, all about the Part 3 test. Read it, use it. Read the relevant section before each training session. Okay. Finally, the marking sheets. Okay. Now, all right, you're not doing a test. You're not doing the test when you're going for your training session. But understanding this marking sheet is very, very important. And I'm going to bring this up because ADIs can teach people to go for their Part 3. You don't have to go to an audit registered trainer. You don't particularly have to go to a driving instructor trainer. In my opinion, you're silly if you don't, because those guys that do this on a daily basis, they understand the rules and have regular audit checks with the DSA, they're up to date with the information, and they will be able to fully explain this sheet of paper to you. when you're preparing for your sessions, let's say this one here is, if I can turn it so I can see it, this is PST9 partly tamed crossroads. So phase 1 is this box here in column A, and all these items down here is what I would be expecting you to teach me during the session that we're doing on that. So I'd want you to cover all of the items listed in this column here, and I want ideally to end up with all of them being marked satisfactory. All right, obviously not necessarily by the end of the training session, because you might need a couple of sessions on something to fully understand it, but your grades will be better, your marks will be better, your understanding will be better if you've prepared beforehand. So you'll find these, you can find them on our members area in the PDF document area, and you can download and print them off. Get familiar with them. Again, your trainer should be able to explain this column here, which is what you're graded on, all the different items. He should be able to explain how this is marked, what it all means. And this side here is what you should be covering. The top box, phase 1, bottom box, phase 2. So you know what we're looking for. If you're teaching the subject, then you should be teaching what's down this column. If it's a phase 2 and you're just assessing how they deal with the subject, then they will be putting faults in relative to what's in these boxes. So you'll be looking for those faults. Again, if there's anything down that column you don't get, you don't understand, speak to your trainer well in advance. So everything you need before you get in car is available. The only thing that's going to cause you a problem is yourself. All right, if you want to make your training good value for money, if you want to make sure you're getting the very best out of it, then put the legwork in, guys. We can't do it for you. Prepare to pass. All right, the more work you put in by reading those documents, understanding them, and keeping in contact with your trainer. If there's something you read and you just don't get, don't just say I don't understand that. No, pick up the phone your trainer, send them an email, or at the very least, when you get in the car on that training session, the first thing you should be saying to your trainer, right, I've got ready for today and there's something I don't get, I don't quite understand, and it's this. They should then be able to make sure you fully understand it before you start your practice, before you start that actually training session. That way you're giving yourself the best opportunity to pass. All right, I hope I haven't come across too heavily there, but you know, trust me, as a trainer, it can be quite frustrating when you think to yourself, oh, this guy just has not prepared at all, hasn't prepared at all, and they expect me to be able to help them. And of course, when that guy goes home and says, oh yeah, didn't go very well today, my trainer's not very good, the truth is you never put the legwork in. That's what usually is the case. Anyway, enough from me. See you soon in car.